All right, Parcells, A Football Life, the story of Bill Parcells, the very decorated, well-known football coach, American football coach of several different franchises. He's basically mostly known for turning around teams, turning around franchises, right? Most famously, probably with the New York Giants. Coached them to 2 Super Bowls. So if you're a fan of the NFL, you know who Bill Parcells is. This is his story, and I loved it. I thought this is a great book. So as far as for what it is, it obviously, like a lot of memoirs, it details his whole life story, from his beginnings, his very humble beginnings, to his failings. I mean, he's the reason why I like books like these, and what I call these are the old school coaches, is that there's a lot of similarities that unfortunately you don't get today. And I'll talk more about what I mean by that. But this guy didn't grow up in the best of places, grew up very humbly, coached all over prior to getting a job in the NFL. I mean, whether it was in high schools or colleges, he did a lot of different things to finally get his crack in the NFL. And it's different, right? It's different from how it is today versus how it used to be back then, but it goes into a lot of detail. I mean, this is not a short book. I think it's over 500 pages. And so it goes into detail about all of his stops and his journey, and things that went well, things that didn't go well, including, failings in his marriage and failings to his kids. So I do think you probably need to be familiar with Bill Parcells in the NFL, but it's books like this to me are they're almost like a leadership book in a lot of ways. There's so many good lessons that you can take from these kind of books, because I do think that these types of people, what I call kind of the old school hard ass coaches, it's a lost generation, right? It's like a lost art. I mean, there's the one that comes to most mind for me is Vince Lombardi. Having read his book, it reminds me of this. I mean, Bill Parcells is a tortured soul, like a lot of the best coaches are. They have a very difficult time being happy or being satisfied, and that's part of what drives them. It's part of what makes them good. I mean, Bill Parcells did the classic leave a rock in your shoe all day long to make it remind you of that there's always going to be like pain and never to get comfortable. He did that like his whole coaching career. He'd have a rock in his shoe, right? Like you hear about stuff like that and you're like, man, people just don't do stuff like that anymore today. So yeah, it's that what gets me about these types of these types of people, old school leaders, is just that it's that tortured soul. It's the things that make someone great are often the exact same things that are their failings, right? It's like you can love them for the best things about them, and you can hate them for some of the worst things. And you see this a lot with some of the best leaders, or even just the people that reach the top 1% of their profession, right? It's like life is really not about balance, it's about trade-offs. And as an example with Bill Parcells, and he talks about this in this book, is that he wasn't the best father and he was not the best husband because he was a ball coach. And in order to be the best ball coach he could be, that was something that had to suffer, right? It just simply wasn't his top priority. And I think that there's lessons in that for all of us. And to me, I enjoy reading about these stories because it's a reminder of what the best have to go through to achieve that level of success. And from the outside looking in, we oftentimes think that we want what someone else has, but we don't want to have to sacrifice what they had to do to get there. I'm not saying there's only one way to do it, but you find this a lot with these old ball coaches, the Vince Lombardis, the Bill Parcells, the Bill Belichicks of the world. So anyway, I thought this book was great. I want to read a couple of quotes from it that I love. So one of the first quotes from the book that I wrote down from Bill Parcells was, "It doesn't cost you anything to listen. Inflexibility. It was the worst human failing. You could learn to check impetuosity, you could overcome fear through confidence, and laziness through discipline, but rigidity of mind allowed for no antidote. It carried the seeds of its own destruction." Loved that quote, and I agree with it, right? Is like inflexibility rigid thinking is what gets a lot of people in trouble, that there's only one way to do thing, or this is the way we've always done it, this is the way we're going to keep doing it. I loved hearing that from him. It was one of my favorite quotes from the book. And then here's the other one that I wrote down. I think this is when he was talking to Curtis Martin. He said, "So son, don't confuse routine with commitment, because you've got to do more the older you get, or you're losing ground. A lot of people fall into routine in their life's work, and as time goes on, they eventually confuse that with being committed to their job. The only thing they're committed to is the routine." Loved that. Again, it's so relevant for a lot of people, but it's so true. It's like as you get older, inevitably things, particularly physically, if you're in like a sport, just start to get worse. And so you have to work even harder because your body's failing you more. But people often confuse, well, I'm doing the same routine. I'm doing the same things that I used to do. And that's not what being great is. That's not what being elite is you got to change. You got to continue to adapt, and you got to continue to get better. Which kind of leads me into the next thing, and why I love these types of books and these types of people is that on the outside, a lot of the Bill Parcells types are, especially like in the media, are portrayed as assholes. People don't like them, crass, the media doesn't like them, short, stubborn. And the reality is that while they do give very harsh feedback, Keyshawn Johnson always talks about how nobody could chew him out better than Bill Parcells. The players always love guys like this, right? They love the Bill Parcells of the world because they helped shape them into becoming men. Curtis Martin credits Bill Parcells with being the dad he didn't have, right? I believe Bill did introduced Curtis Martin into the Hall of Fame, and it was because he just shapes men. So yes, he's hard on you, but it's for a purpose. It's because they deeply love as well. And I love this book. I think if you're a football fan, if you're just, maybe you're a fan of the Giants from back in that era, in a lot of ways, if you can't even write the story of modern football without the Bill Parcells of the world. Also, if you're into leadership, managing people, there's lessons in you for that. You know, it reminds me of like I mentioned earlier, Vince Lombardi's book is kind of a good example. And then a more recent one is Dan Hurley, the coach at UConn, his book recently. These old school coaches, these tortured souls, these guys that know nothing else but the job about ball. I love those kinds of books, and so I think that this is a good one. I would certainly recommend it. So appreciate it. Thanks for watching.